Clay Travis will join us to explain why a Trump victory is more than just owning the libs. We'll explain how a tough border policy led to record Hispanic voters for Republicans, and Kamala Harris could still have a pathway to becoming commander-in-chief. We have those stories and so much more. Blaze News Tonight starts right now. Welcome to the chaos. I'm Jill Savage. Today is Thursday, November 7th. Donald Trump clinched a final electoral tally of 312. It's the most for any Republican since George H.W. Bush back in 1988. And here to break it all down with me is Matthew Peterson, editor-in-chief of Blaze News, and Clay Travis. He's the founder of OutKick and the host of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show. So, Clay, Trump won every swing state. So how is he able to pull off such a sweeping victory?
I'm still walking on air, Jill. Congrats on all the success you're having, but most importantly, congrats for all the success our country's having because Kamala Harris got her ass kicked. And I think she got beaten pretty soundly because she never really told us what she thought on the issues, and the ones she did tell us about, she was wrong on. Meanwhile, Trump was right on everything, and I think we saw a major generational shift and a racial shift. Men in particular, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, moved towards Trump. It wasn't actually as much the white support that got him over the finish line. It was a new multiracial, diverse coalition. And I think it spells real trouble for Democrats and their identity politics coalition giving up the ghost. But in the meantime, boy, oh boy, was Tuesday night fun. Biggest win since 1988.
Clay, from Muslims in Michigan to the Amish in Pennsylvania, I think it was an amazing realigning election. But there's one group that you've written about on Twitter, on X, that really appeals to me, and I want you to talk about this. You spoke about how Generation X came out in large numbers. Why do you think that is?
Because Generation X has great judgment. Look, I'm the oldest member of youngest member of Gen X, 1979, April 1979. And I guess it's the 8 months that keeps me from being a millennial that has made me so sane. In all seriousness, I do think Gen X saved America. And I think a big reason why is Trump appeals to people who grew up in the 1980s and the 1990s, because we grew up in an America that was awesome and an America that was filled with belief that we were the greatest country in the history of the world. Many of us lived through the collapse of communism. We actually remember when the Soviet Union was a threat. And all of that conspired and coalesced, I think, in much appeal from what Donald Trump is saying. I'd like for America to look more like it did in the 1980s and the 1990s when it comes to Americans of all stripes and persuasions getting along and believing that America is the baddest ass country in the history of the world. And a lot of Democrats, frankly, don't believe that anymore. And I think much of Generation X, myself included, fundamentally rejects this idea that somehow as America is a fundamentally awful racist country. And we like the idea of which Trump is selling, which is American exceptionalism is a good thing. We are the freest and fairest country in the history of the world. And if the rest of the world looked more like America, the rest of the world would be far more better off. America is a good thing. And I think Gen X is one of the biggest and foremost defenders of that idea.
Now, Clay, I used to work for you, and we covered college football together out on the road. And Donald Trump has been seen at so many college football games. He's a lover of college football. And you wrote on X that college football players overwhelmingly voted for Trump. So why does Donald resonate so well with this group?
Because I think young men, and I've got three of them, I've got a 16, a 14, and a 10-year-old in my house. I think young men innately are seeing through the BS world that they have grown up in, this woke universe where suddenly being male is wrong. I had one of my friend's kids a few years ago, Jill, came up to me and he was like, so I was in class the other day and the whole class was just about how white men are awful and how we destroyed everything. And he's like, I'm 12. I can't even choose what time I get to go to bed. I'm not destroying anything. And I think that idea has spread from white men are awful, frankly, to men are awful. And I think a lot of people out there are saying toxic masculinity is BS, right? Look, I'm not saying men are perfect. We screw up like women screw up, like people all over the world screw up on a regular basis. But in general, men have brought a lot of good to the United States. And I don't think women need to rise and tear down men in order for both sexes to be equal. And also, by the way, different. I think a lot of these young men on college football programs, they saw this crazy Leah Thomas business and they don't think it makes any sense for women to be pretending to be men. And they're tired of having to pretend that they don't believe what they believe. And I am super optimistic that this next generation of men, these young men now, 18 to 29-year-olds who are just coming in to vote, are going to have a big impact. Here's something else one of them said to me recently, Jill. He said, my senior prom got canceled. My senior year sporting season got canceled for COVID. They were wrong on all of that. And now I can finally go out and vote and let them hear my voice. Remember, a lot of these kids now who are coming in for their first presidential election, they were 15, 16, 17 years old when COVID shut down in 2020. They weren't able to vote then. They blame left-wing Democrats for, frankly, destroying a couple of years of their youth, and they're angry about it. And they want the freedom and the vibrancy and frankly, the idea that being male is a good thing that is being espoused by Donald Trump.
Clay, we've talked about all these different groups, right? I mean, men, Generation X, et cetera. What is your big picture for how Trump specifically flipped the swing states and came in over the top? What do you think really did it in the big picture scheme of things when it comes to the issues, why people voted?
Yeah, I've been saying it's as easy as EBC. Economy, border, crime. They're the three things that people care about the most. They want goods to not cost as much as they are. They want their wages to outpace the growth of grocery prices. And I've been making a point about this, but I've got three boys I mentioned earlier. When I take them to Chick-fil-A now, it costs over $50 for me to be able to take my kids out to fast food. We should, and now they're starting to eat a lot more because they got two teenage boys, but $50 used to be a nice sit-down meal. Things cost way more than they should. The economy's broken for many people. They think Trump will do a better job of fixing it because they remember the Trump economy when he was in office. Frankly, I think they're right. The border disaster, 10 million that we know of, probably far more have illegally crossed into the country. I think it ties in with violent crime. A lot of people out there don't feel like their families are safe. They see the rising rates of violent crime. All those things combined, again, it's as easy as EBC, economy, border, crime. Trump was right on all those. And those were the three issues that mattered the most, I think, to most voters.
Clay, you remind us all the time, though, you're rich, so you can afford the $50 at Chick-fil-A. Now, what'd you do to celebrate? What are you doing now just to make sure that we really bask in this win? Because we didn't know if we were going to get it or not.
I got, first of all, super drunk on Tuesday night, and I was really excited to do so because it felt so good. Jill, you've known me for a while. I've been fighting these woke battles, it feels like, for a very long time. And a lot of people have been throwing punches at me saying that I was wrong for being a Trump voter. A lot of people privately might say that they agreed with me, but a lot of people publicly, different people, would attack me. And I think I was right. I think I was right on all of it. And seeing the country come together and agree was a tremendous feeling. Seeing the biggest win for a Republican candidate since 1988 feels outstanding. And I've just been fighting this battle for so long that when we finally got the results, I'm still smiling. I feel like I'm walking on air for multiple days now. I'm going to take a couple of days off around Thanksgiving and just chill, go hang out by the beach. I'm going to take some trips, I think, in the early spring. I've been fighting here. I was up in Pennsylvania with Dave McCormick, who has now been called as the winner of the Pennsylvania Senate. And look, there's another election coming in a couple of years, but I encourage everybody who feels as good as I do, just go out for a nice meal, have a few drinks, tip one back. You don't always get big wins. And sometimes I think you have to pause and take advantage of really good things that are happening. And I think Trump's election on Tuesday night is the happiest I've been with an election result, frankly, in my life.
Well, I'm right as the name of the host of our mutual friend, Jesse Kelly, and I'll let him know that you're trying to steal it from him. But Clay, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Hey, tell Jesse I hope his hairline gets better. Maybe Trump can bring that back.
Oh, we definitely will, Clay. Thanks so much.
Hey, I appreciate you all. Keep up the good work, Jill. You guys do fantastic work. Look forward to seeing you again sometime in person so we can celebrate.
Awesome. Awesome. We will do that for sure. And when we come back, we're going to break down the historic surge from the Latino support for Trump just ahead. Clay celebrating, we're celebrating. There's nothing better than at the end of a long day, sitting down with your favorite glass of whiskey. And if it turns out that with every glass, you're helping to support a great American cause, doesn't it make it that much better? Well, it's time to chart your own course with Flying Ace whiskeys from Craft Co. They're inspired by generations of American aviators and proudly made right here in the United States. They not only make amazing whiskeys, they're also committed to supporting our brave troops and their families through their partnerships with Folds of Honor. And they're providing scholarships to families of Americans fallen or disabled. And these scholarships allow families to begin to chart their own new course after experiencing great sacrifice. Flying Ace whiskeys are American proud because they're American made, and they're American proud because they help to support our heroes and their families. So don't wait around. See what the hype is all about. Go buy it online at flyingacespirits.com. Use code America to get free shipping. It's flyingacespirits.com. Code America for free shipping. A new exit poll shows that Donald Trump won 46% of the Latino vote, beating out both Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush and winning the largest share of the national Latino vote for a Republican in modern times. So here to discuss is Karina Yapor. She's the executive producer for Voz Media and actually right here in our building. So we had to talk to you because this is such a tremendous accomplishment from Donald Trump. So how was he able to garner such support?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I think I'm glad to be here. And you know what? To me, it's more simple than we have heard in the mainstream media. They are saying crazy stuff out there. I was listening to The View host saying that Latino voters didn't vote for Kamala Harris because we are racist,
right,
and Latino males are misogynist, which I believe is very, very it's very racist for her to say that about us. It's more simple than that. We care about economy first. I think that's one of the reasons and the main reasons Latinos voted for Donald Trump. But besides that, we have very conservative values. And Latinos are waking up and realizing that the Democratic Party don't longer represent their values, their faith. And I believe that's part of the movement that we have seen in the recent years. They are realizing the woke agenda. They are realizing that they don't want their children to be indoctrinated at school. They don't want their children to be transitioned at school. And they are waking up and they are making their voices heard through their vote for sure.
So let's go right to get this off the table right away, because I'm still surprised we have to talk about it. After everything that's happened, it still confuses most of the media. How can this be? The first thing they say is immigration. How is this possible?
Yes.
Trump is saying mass deportations, and what a terrible phrase. And you just see them still wrestling with this. How is this possible? How do you answer that question?
Well, and I have some numbers for you guys, very interesting numbers, because actually the border counties in Texas, 50% of Hispanics voted for Donald Trump. So what does that tell you? That tells you that Hispanics are being impacted as well by illegal immigration. The fact that we are Hispanics doesn't mean that we support illegal immigration. Of course, I am an immigrant myself. I support immigration. I think it's a good thing when you have control of it. It's just like letting someone into your house. You don't let you don't let the door open for anyone. You want to know who's coming and all of that. So most Hispanics are in favor of immigration, but legal immigration. Most Hispanics have followed a legal process that have taken us several years, fees, attorneys, and all. It's kind of complicated, to be honest with you. I do believe that we need to make it better for good people, but definitely the crisis that we have seen in these last 4 years is insane and is making our neighborhoods more unsafe, especially for minorities. Like really, when they say, oh no, minorities are in favor of illegal immigration, all of that, that's not true, because minorities are being impacted by this crisis, for sure.
I want to go back to some of the numbers because it is a difference that we saw between the men and the women voting. It was 55% of the Latino men to 38% in favor for Latino women. Why do you think that we saw that dynamic?
You know, unfortunately, even though when we are very conservative, unfortunately, I guess within Latino women still having the idea first of having a female president for the first time, a woman in the White House resonates a lot, you know, because we want equal opportunities for women and all of that. And secondly, I will say some kind of abortion. You know, we are, of course, we are not in favor of abortion on third trimester or anything like that. But I believe that some women bought the rhetoric that is a women right, and if the life of the mother is in danger, they could, you know, they will not be allowed to have an abortion and all of that. So I believe that's the reason why more women supported Kamala Harris than men. But honestly, we're still very, very conservative. But if you ask me, I think those two topics had a, you know, weight on them.
So Karina, Kamala Harris, she tied for the worst performance ever when it comes to Latino vote. Why do you think that is?
Well, I want to clarify that because it made me laugh when I was listening to all these crazy theories about us being, you know, misogynist for males and then us racist and all of that. No, I believe we didn't vote for her because Latinos didn't believe that she was competent enough to be the president of the United States, first of all. Second of all, she hasn't been able to handle the border crisis, and we saw that. And third, a lot of Latinos have came for countries where they have experienced socialism, and they are seeing those red flags on her in the Biden-Harris administration. So that's the reason why they didn't vote specifically for her. It's not because and I've heard this in general, like America wasn't ready to have a female president and all of that. I think we are, if we have the right candidate, and clearly she was not.
We've seen a coalition of people who normally wouldn't support a Republican come together on this election. Do you think that this is going to be part of the future of the Latino movement, is moving more to the Republican side?
I think so. And I have to tell you that that's why we are here. We created Voz Media 2 years ago. I used to work for Telemundo almost 8 years and Univision almost 8 years as well. We didn't have a conservative platform, news platform in Spanish for Spanish speakers. And it's very, very important that we provide non-biased information for Hispanics in Spanish, because a lot of people still consume a lot of news in Spanish language. It's the second most spoken language in the United States and in the world, but I think one of the three in the world. So that's why we're here. Definitely, I think, and I see that a lot of more Hispanics will move towards the Republican Party. It's just that they need to receive the actual facts, and that's why we're here for.
This, I mean, we can't emphasize enough how important it is, and for people watching out there, you need to realize they're in the same building. Like we all work near each other, but to
neighbors,
work near it, it's unbelievable because you know, just like in any portion of the media, there's so many wealthy people who tend left who want to propagandize, and the Spanish language is no different. So what you're doing is amazing. It's the Lord's work. I'm curious about.
And if may I add something, I'm so proud because we saw Kamala Harris bringing all the pop stars in the Hispanic world as well. We saw J-Lo, we saw Bad Bunny, who is like a huge thing. And I was afraid, I was afraid that could really, really make people vote for her. I'm so proud of the Latinos for not falling to that. You know, they realized that these stars, you can like their music, you can like their movies, but that doesn't mean that you're going to vote based on what they tell you, because they really don't have the same struggles that regular people have.
No, people are waking up. Everyone's
Yes.
waking up.
Yes.
I have a question though, particularly on the religious angle. It's interesting to me. I saw this morning, 7% plus 7 for Trump, Catholic Latinos, and this happened to everyone. So Catholics went, I think, plus 10. Do you have any thoughts about that? Like what happened there?
No, absolutely. And not only Catholics, but evangelicals. So we Latinos are either Catholics or evangelicals. There's no other religion. And we really are very, very, you know, we believe in God. We love God. I can tell you faith is something that drives our decisions, or day-to-day life, and our love for our families as well. So definitely that resonates a lot within the Hispanic community. I was covering Latinos for Trump in El Doral 2 weeks ago, and people were just amazed by looking at Donald Trump and all these leaders praying over him. You know, that's very, very, it moved Latinos because of that, and because he respects religion, and because he says Merry Christmas at the White House,
Yes.
you know, and we don't want to change America. I believe us Hispanics can be the answer to wokeism in America because of our values and our faith. So nobody can mess with our faith because we react. And I think that's part of what we just saw this past election.
I love it.
Definitely.
Karina, thanks so much for coming in. And we love having you here in the building.
Thank you
with
so
us.
much. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
When we come back, Chris Bedford will tell us why Kamala Harris still has a way to enter the Oval Office next. Oh, the holiday season is right around the corner, and it's time to say goodbye to the uncomfortable sheets you've been sleeping on for years and get yourself Cozy Earth's best-selling bamboo sheet set. Now, I can tell you I own them and I love them. I've had them for a few months now, and they are by far the best sheets that I've ever owned. They get softer every single time I wash them, and Cozy Earth, it's right there in the name. They want you to turn your personal space into a sanctuary, and that's exactly what I wanted to do when I got home off of that crazy flight last night, and just jump into my bed because it was the perfect place to unwind. And they make the perfect holiday gift. So in case you're on the fence, all Cozy Earth bedding products come with a 100-night sleep trial. So if you're not completely in love with them, after more than 3 months, you can still return them for a full refund. So wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. Visit CozyEarth.com/Jill and use my exclusive 40% off code Jill to give the gift of luxury this holiday season. It's CozyEarth.com/Jill. And if you get a post-purchase survey, say that you heard about Cozy Earth right here from Blaze News Tonight and me. In the wake of Kamala Harris's loss, News Nation contributor Kurt Bardelia gave Joe Biden a suggestion for his lame duck presidency.
Yeah, and I think that if you're President Joe Biden, there's nothing left to run for. There's nothing left to really do. Pardon your son, then resign and elevate Kamala Harris to the presidency and make one more mark in the history books while you can.
Here to break this all down for us is Blaze senior politics editor Chris Bedford. So, Chris, do you think that Joe Biden would actually consider being replaced by Kamala Harris one last time? I mean, we've seen now Jill Biden on Election Day wearing red. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of love there right now, Chris.
No, Kurt Bardell's was maybe 10, 11 years ago a caricature of a Washington swamp preacher, literally featured in the opening of This Town, which may have been his greatest achievement as a person. Since then, he's kind of left and done his own thing, and his opinions are stupid. Joe Biden's opinion on Kamala Harris's loss was on full display today in the Rose Garden, or at the White House. When he came down, he practically ran to the microphone at a quick jaunt. He was wearing his sunglasses. He had a big smile. He said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you," like he was a rock star there to greet adoring fans, not someone delivering the somber message about the future of our republic. And then he talked to his White House staff, and he thanked them for the job that they had done. Joe Biden is someone who has gotten a completely incorrect reputation for being a team player, for being a man who was just a consoler in chief. He's always been a mean person, actually. Inside of Washington, tough, sharp-elbowed, willing to scream at you even before he was an angry old man. Someone who was certainly willing to yell at train attendants back in the day. And he may have softened a little bit around the edges, but when you're Kamala Harris and you stick the knife in his back like that, along with Barack Obama, there's no love lost. I think at the end of the day, he is less committed to the Democratic Party's priorities than he is to his own ambitions, something the Democrats have gotten really annoyed about over the past few days. And that is on full display right now. I don't think he's stepping aside. And also, this idea that he should just give Kamala Harris, who didn't win a nomination the first round, didn't win a nomination the second round, has never won anything on the national level, the presidency is some kind of participation trophy, is just what happens when you get an entire generation of participation trophy losers who become adults and don't lose it. It completely infantilizes her, and it's a really embarrassing suggestion. That's how I feel.
Chris, it sounds crazy. People have been saying, and it is crazy, but hear me out. What if Joe Biden pardons both Hunter and Trump on his way out?
Why not? At this point, I mean, I would definitely, if you're Joe Biden, there's no reason not to pardon your son. You've got no loyalty to the Democrats on this. You're not worried about the bad press. You're worried about your family. That makes total sense. I don't see why he wouldn't do it. He could take some principled stand for the first time in his career and say that would be a misuse of power, but I doubt that's going to happen. And pardoning Trump would be a fun move. Just another stick at Kamala Harris, like how Donald Trump pardoned Scooter Libby, just to show George W. Bush that some people actually had the courage to not leave their guys on the field. Just a little stick at George Bush from back in the day. I would have seen Stranger Things, and I think it would add to the wonderful drama that is the most exciting race in modern history.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing going on there right now, Chris. And you just love to see it. And something else that you love to see is Mitch McConnell is no longer going to be the Senate Majority Leader. Now it's up to Thune and Cornyn or some of the names out there. How do you see this battle playing out now?
So there's three contestants at this point: Cornyn, Thune, and Rick Scott from down in Florida. Rick Scott's a dark horse for sure. He's been running as kind of the conservative place for votes to be parked while some more conservative senators try to demand some actual changes. Thune is in the lead. Absolutely. He's got a pretty strong operation. He might even have the votes locked up. And this is the way that the Senate leader race works, is you have kind of a ranked choice, not a ranked choice system, but if they vote on the first three, the one with the lowest score has to drop out. And then they reconstitute and they get behind two people, and then the vote will actually happen who decides it. And it's a closed door vote, so they don't get the same kind of pressure. But Thune's an interesting person. One, most of the Senate these days is run by its staff, not the actual senators. It's a really sad state of affairs. Thune is not the brightest bulb, and his staff seem to follow in that sort of footsteps. They take a lot of their marching orders from Mitch McConnell's people. So if you get Thune in there, you're going to get kind of a go-along, get-along guy, a former never-Trumper, and you're going to get one who's run by Mitch McConnell's people. You're just going to get a continuation of that. Basically, a younger, less intelligent Mitch McConnell. John Cornyn might actually shake that up a little bit. He's got his own operation. He's got a massive fundraising apparatus. He's a little smarter, certainly. He's someone who would bring in his own people if he came in, but he's not necessarily on the conservative side at all, really, either. So that'd be another thing. And he doesn't have the support that Thune has. Now, Rick Scott, of course, is a very intelligent man, but sometimes he doesn't quite seem to understand how Senate popularity contests go, how catty they can be. As someone who's made $1 billion himself, he assumes that just being a hardworking man and going to work every day and working hard and working smart are going to get you a win. And that's just not how it works in the Senate lunchroom, unfortunately. So right now, it's most likely going to end up as Thune. But if you want any kind of a shift from the McConnellism, then you're not going to want to back him. And that's why right now you see Thune warning Trump off, saying, hey, don't get involved in this race. Now, Thune and Trump had a rocky start because Thune was against him at first. They've since kind of got a cordial relationship. Thune stopped attacking him, and Trump's shaking his hand a few times. But I don't know if he's got enough chips to tell the big guy to stay out of it. And even if Trump gets in, I think that could push people. But remember, at the end of the day, it's a secret ballot. So it's not like voters could hold their senators accountable for how they vote on this one.
Chris, I want to drill into this a little bit more because if you're watching at home, you may think, well, wait a minute, you actually mentioned Rick Scott, and I like Rick Scott as opposed to those other guys. So why is it impossible for the guy I like to actually get this job? I mean, Rick Scott is out there in public talking about, his potential to do this. He was asked, I believe I saw him on CNN. He was asked, well, does Trump support you? And he sort of, well, Trump supports me generally. He clearly sounded like he wanted Trump to come in and get in this race. Can you explain why it's so difficult for the Senate to choose someone who obviously has a lot of capacity?
One reason that someone like Trump might not want to back him is he's got some more of the traditional conservative ideas there. He's very concerned about the budget and spending, which is Trump is less concerned about. He's proposed a budget. He's proposed previously a budget that would make alterations to entitlements like Social Security, something that Donald Trump's not going to ever touch with a 10.5-foot pole. But the main reason that all of maybe American support for Rick Scott is not going to translate is because it's not up to us. It's up to these Senate Republicans. And in that very small group of people, what gives you a big helping hand is knowing everyone, playing the game, raising huge amounts of money for those people and giving it to them, spreading that cash around. And that's a game that so far Rick Scott hasn't played as well as some of the, swamp creatures.
All right, so that's the situation in the Senate. With the 60 seconds that we have left here, give us the update on the House, everything that you see going on there.
I think it's looking good for Republicans for the first time right now, which is good news for Mike Johnson. He gets to keep his speakership if Republicans actually keep the House. When you've got things like Donald Trump winning the national vote, that makes it a lot easier for the House. But there's an interesting thing. I've got an article coming out on this tomorrow in the Beltway Brief, just how short Donald Trump's coattails may have been. How many voters he brought out who didn't just click all the boxes. How many people may have been reached for the first time and come out and voted for the first time. So his massive wins haven't necessarily translated for Republicans. It's not Donald Trump's fault. A lot of that is the voters' fault. Not the voters' fault, excuse me. A lot of that is Republicans' fault, that they weren't able to make the same case that he was. His wins weren't theirs. But it looks like, and the word in Washington right now, is a couple gains, maybe a few small seats added to the Republican caucus in the House.
All right. Well, Bedford, we look forward to watching this whole thing unfold. Unfortunately, we don't know the results for everything, even 24 hours after. But you know what? That's just what we have to deal with now in this day and age. Thanks so much for your time.
See you tomorrow.
Late night talk show hosts cry over Trump's presidential win. We'll show you why their misery is our joy. Coming up. It's been debated at Thanksgiving. What's better, turkey or ham? Well, if you picked either of those, you'd be wrong because the third option is correct. It's a free ham from Good Ranchers worth $110, and it's their Thanksgiving special. So if you order any of their 100% American meat boxes, you can get a free 10-pound spiral cut ham added for free. By shopping at Good Ranchers, you're directly supporting local farms and ranches in the United States. And the best part is you can skip the chaos and all that imported meat that they have at the grocery store. And you get to celebrate what matters most this Thanksgiving, which is time with the people you love. So to claim your free Thanksgiving ham before they're gone, go to goodranchers.com and subscribe to any of their boxes and use my code Jill at checkout. And be sure to order by November 19th for guaranteed delivery by Thanksgiving and get that free 10-pound spiral cut ham and get connected to American farms and ranches this November at goodranchers.com. And remember, use my code Jill to claim a free Thanksgiving ham before they run out. If you're thankful for the farmers and ranchers of this country, go to goodranchers.com and support them with every order. Late night host Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert were unsurprisingly not thrilled at Donald Trump's victory.
And in this democracy, the majority has spoken, and they said they don't care that much about democracy.
Here to discuss is Blaze Media correspondent Julio Rosas. So, Julio, I mean, at this point, when we look at this, what's the difference right now between a talk show host and a liberal pundit?
Well, I can tell you the same thing they have in common right now is that they're all crying, which is a great thing to see, honestly, because ever since Trump's first victory, right, in 2016, I mean, the reaction was so obviously shocking, but then they went into overdrive in terms of their reaction to it, and that's what was so entertaining the first time. And then obviously when he didn't get that second term in 2020, then there was that smugness, right? It was like, see, we were going to reject all of that what Trump stands for and all that. Like, we as a nation are finally back on track. And that's why it's so significant that Trump not only won more in the electoral college, but he won the popular vote, right? So now they can't use that talking point of, oh, well, America didn't really want him because he didn't win the popular vote. But it's because the Biden-Harris administration was so terrible that Trump gained virtually almost every single voting block. And so that's what makes the meltdown from not just, Stephen Colbert or Jimmy Kimmel is so great. It's because they need to come to terms that, maybe having a mashed potato for brains president and a DEI hire for vice president, that doesn't really work out too well to have a country, right? That doesn't actually do well for the nation.
All right, we both mentioned Jimmy Kimmel. Let's go ahead and listen to what he thinks is bad for the country right now.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go. For healthcare, for our climate, for science, for journalism, for justice, for free speech. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, for seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO, for the truth and democracy and decency. And it was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet. And most of all,
it's a bad night for everybody who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet, Julio. You're too dumb to figure this out. I think his tears are real. What do you think?
Yeah, again, there's that with Kimmel. There's even more of that smugness where, again, it's like, oh, like, you don't really know. I know. I know what's best, and so therefore you have to listen to me. And when I'm not getting it. So I just think, again, I think that's why it was so important that Trump not only won, but he won soundly, right? Because there's just so many issues that Democrats were trying to downplay in this election. Saying the economy is actually fantastic. And actually, no, the border's Trump's fault. The border's Republicans' fault. It's not our fault. It's actually other people's faults. Foreign policy, we're doing great. Sure, there might be all these different wars that started under our leadership, but you still have to stick with us, right? So it just highlights just how out of touch not just these late night show hosts, but even people like Joe Scarborough and The View, right? I mean, they're so out of touch. This is another dose of reality that they need to experience because people are fed up. People are fed up with how things were, and they made their voices heard on Tuesday night.
What really cracks me up about this is that it's not funny. And that's what's funny to me. I mean, it's the opposite of humor. I mean, humor is about taking two disparate things and kind of putting them together, like an ugly person talking to a really good-looking person, and there's potential for comedy, And this is just pure sort of cringe, and it's acted, it's scripted. And you look at people who have no right to be talking to you about politics whatsoever. Then either, I think actually he's crying about the fact that his cover is blown, and it doesn't matter how woke he pretends, he's going to get in trouble for things in the future. But who knows, right? I mean, so when you look at it, I was watching Seth, what's his name, Meyers, the other night too.
Myers, yes, Seth Meyers.
I mean, I wouldn't even want to show the clip because it would just assault people's senses and their brain would still be hurting like mine is after watching 30 seconds of it. Don't you think that there's a potential here now for the ratings to plummet even further now that the emperor wears no clothes. I mean, it almost feels like the networks are subsidizing these guys. How far do you think they could fall? Do you think there'll be an actual change in late night?
I don't think so, and it's just because you look at the media as a whole, right? I mean, they went with this strategy of, again, the overreaction that I was talking about the first time Trump won, and they've doubled down on it. I mean, the media overall is less popular than Congress, and Congress sucks. I mean, and they don't see that, like, or they don't realize it. Yeah, sure, they might see the poll, and again they just think, oh well, we're not the problem, you're the problem. So I think I think with late night as well, and that applies to late night as well. And so I think maybe it would have to take changes in leadership at the very top for the companies that own the stations and everything in order for. But even when we saw with like CNN, right, when Chris Lick was in charge briefly, he did try to change things up. He said, hey, this isn't working. We're losing viewership. We're losing money. No one is tuning into us. We're not respected anymore. And how did they react? So CNN had a revolt, and they pushed him out. And now they're going back virtually almost to the same playbook. Yeah, that might make some money in the short term, but I think long term, yeah, people tune out. They don't want to listen to it. They see just how, like you said, it's just cringe. It's just cringe. I mean, there's a grown man crying on television that's supposed to be comedy. I mean, that's ridiculous. I got better things to do than to see that. So no, this was proverbially a smack in the face and dose of reality that was much needed for not just late night TV, but for a lot of people in the nation.
Julio, we do have way better things to do. 24 hours ago, you and I were at Trump headquarters, probably going live about this point in the night. What were your takeaways from being there in the room during what was an historical night?
It was as much as it was a celebration, it was a sense of relief because talking to the Trump campaign people and just Republican operatives in general, I mean, the sense was we have to win this. I mean, if we don't win this, there's no go. We're going to go off the cliff, right? And so again, I think it was pretty cool to be there because the first time Trump won, I was in a college common room watching the election, right? And so it was his win that got me interested into actually dropping out of school and going into journalism. And now, almost 10 years later, I'm at the final victory party, for his second term. So I think that's kind of personally, that's kind of like a cool journey that we've kind of gone through collectively. So it was a great night. I was very tired, but it was a sense of relief as much as it was a celebration. And now he's got to deliver. He has the mandate, and now he's got to deliver on everything. And hopefully, he stays at Mar-a-Lago as much as he can before the election, because obviously there's still quite a few people out there that want to might try to do something nefarious, and hopefully that doesn't happen.
All right. I realized I said 24 hours ago. It was 48 hours ago. But in all fairness, I have no idea what day it is right now. We didn't sleep all week. Donald Trump won. It doesn't matter. Julio, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course. Thanks.
I'll tell you my perspective from Trump headquarters right after this. Don't go anywhere. Well, I think we watched the first post-television election. We know the legacy networks now, they couldn't have been more wrong about this election. And independent networks like Blaze are the future, and the future is right now. And we can't do this without your direct support. So if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing today, and you'll get $47 off your annual subscription. It is our biggest discount ever, and that was supposed to end last night, but we're all in such a good mood here that we're continuing it on. So go to blazetv.com/BNT and get $47 off your subscription.
Okay, I'm going to take over this block and just commandeer it for a minute and question Jill Savage about her trip to Mar-a-Lago.
The tables have turned.
It wasn't Mar-a-Lago.
It was not.
It was Palm Beach.
Yes, we were at the convention center.
Okay, so first question, did you meet Elon Musk?
No, I did not. He was at Mar-a-Lago. He did not make it over. I did not see him, at least, at the convention center. I think that he decided that he had like 7 companies that he had to run, and 2 a.m. Probably was his cutoff.
Were people nervous
everybody in the room, they would all say, and it was almost funny how you would talk to every single person and they would have the exact same answer. We're like, I think we're gonna win. I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't know if we can say that we're going to win. Like, can we say that out loud? Like, but what are they going to have up their sleeve? So yes, people were excited for sure to be in the room. They all thought we were going to win, but they all had a little bit of hesitancy because they know what is possible now.
So were there people partying the entire time?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes. I'll give you the inside story now. Right before Donald came out, it was after 2 a.m. in the room. There was one woman who unfortunately had a little too much, and she's like, I'm okay. But the inside of her came to the outside of her, and she had to be escorted away before the Don came out on stage, unfortunately.
This is wild. You're only going to hear this here at the
You
Blaze.
really are. It happened right in front of me. I had to see it.
The big one, I think, that everyone's been asking you and everyone's going to ask you for the rest of your life is, what was it like to be in that room when the tide turned? I mean, first, when did the tide turn? And then when did you really start to feel it?
Well, the networks took their sweet time going and calling some of the key swing states. And as soon as they started announcing that Trump had won a few states, we're like, okay, these are the ones, right? Just check them off, get them under our belts, continue on. Still at 11 p.m. in the room, we still didn't know. I would say Georgia was probably the first bigger one that fell, and people were like, okay, right? Like they were up, they were excited. When Pennsylvania turned for Donald Trump, it was, I mean, at that point they were like, this is it. We have it. Just go ahead and give us 3 more. We'll figure out 3 more electoral votes from somewhere. But the room was as excited, right? I used to work college football and sports. It was like that atmosphere, right? This is the team. We're Team Red. We wanted Donald Trump to win, and it was as electric as a college football game.
By the way, if you're out there and you haven't seen the video that Jill did record of this, which is kind of right over all the crowd when Pennsylvania is announced, you should just go to her Twitter or Instagram and check it out.
Chance of USA in the room at that time. Like, it's everything that you want to love about America.
What about when Trump was speaking?
That was, everybody had been waiting for so long. I think that if we had gotten it a little bit earlier in the night, Trump would have, he had a singer that was out there that was performing when we were all setting up. So a lot of the things got checked off and they just went straight to Donald Trump, as they should. But it's something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. You could hear a pin drop in the room, right? Everybody was so locked in and so engaged.
So I want people in the audience, before I do anything else, to let us know if you think that Jill Savage should go to the White House and ask Trump the questions for the rest of the term.
I'm fully on board. I'm so excited. Again, we are just in a celebratory mood here at Blaze News Tonight, and we will continue to be to break it all down for you tomorrow.